Good afternoon, brethren.
Good afternoon, John.
I too would like to wish all of you a happy Father's Day. Certainly if you get the opportunity to get out tomorrow and do something with the family, please do so. It should be a beautiful day. Now, how many of you can recall a song by Johnny Cash named Boy Next Door? Just two? Three? All right, there you go. You just feel like raising your hands. Well, as you know, that song was a song that was recorded by Johnny Cash back in 1969. And it told the story of a wayward father that had a son that he named Sue. And by the time the boy became 3 years of age, the father went back to his old ways of rambling in the streets and roaming around from town to town. He basically left the family hanging out from one joint to another and gambling and carrying on, doing whatever he can to survive. But he basically left the family. And that boy grew into manhood, hating his father. And that boy said if he ever had an opportunity, he would kill that blankety blank that named him Sue. Right? Now, as time went on, eventually the son ran into the father in some bar, some honky-tonk somewhere, and he recognized him from a picture that his mom had. And so they got into a big brawl, big fight, totally each one intended to kill the other. Right? And at some point, the son got to jump on the father. And the song said his father went for his gun, but the son drew his first. And before the son could shoot, the father started laughing. And then there's a verse in the song that said, and he said, son, this world is rough. And if a man is going to make it, he's got to be tough. And I knew that I wouldn't be there to help you along. So I gave you that name and I said goodbye. And I knew that he would have to get tough or die. And it's that name that has helped to make you strong. Remember that? And then they go on to reconcile, and as the son gained a greater understanding and appreciation for, his father's frame of mind. Now I mention that to you today, brethren, because Father's Day is a celebration for all fathers. Those that we consider good fathers, and even those that we would not consider as being the best of fathers. If you have children, you're a father, right? And Father's Day honors all fathers. And I also mention that, brother, because the scriptures give you ample examples of both types of fathers. And one I would like to discuss with you in my short time this morning. Now, this man, this father, I consider to be a wonderful dad. I have no problem. There's nothing in the scriptures that would indicate to me that he was a poor father, but some commentators would disagree with me. Now, I look at this man, and I say, by all the standards that we judge fatherhood, I would have to say this man was a success. He loved his kids. He was there for his kids. He provided for them. He supported them. And perhaps most importantly, he taught them about God. He taught them that they had a relationship with God. He taught them that they had a God who loved them. But, just like the dad in Johnny Cash's song, he gave them some difficult names to live with. Now, who am I talking about? Hosea, exactly, the prophet Hosea. Now, if you can recall, pretty much all of us know the story of Hosea, right? We all know that Hosea was a man of God. But he was given a very difficult assignment by God, wasn't he? And it just goes to show that sometimes trying to live according to God's will is not easy. It can be very difficult for you. What was Hosea told by God to do? Marry a promiscuous woman. And she was going to be unfaithful to you. He was told that up front, wasn't he? Yeah. Now, You know, it's a difficult thing, a very difficult thing to get into a relationship where one of the partners are unfaithful. Very difficult. But Hosea, a man of God, was commanded by God to do that. And now Hosea was a man of some stature in ancient Israel. So, when people knew him, and so when he entered into this marriage, it kind of raised a few eyebrows, right? Whoa. But God also told Hosea up front that your marriage is a demonstration of my relationship with Israel. In other words, God told him, your business is going to be out in the street. Everybody's going to know that your wife is butterflying around a little bit. Right? And you're going to have kids. People are going to wonder, I don't know, that kid doesn't look too much like him. Right? Wasn't it easy instruction by God? But Hosea followed God's commandments to the letter, didn't he? He married Gomer. And now let's read from Hosea chapter 1, verses 2 through 8. When the Lord began to speak through Hosea, the Lord said to him, go, take yourself an adulterous wife and children of unfaithfulness, because the land is guilty of the vilest adultery in departing from the Lord. So he married Gomer, the daughter of Diblaim, and she conceived and bore him a son. The Lord, verse 4, said to Hosea, call him Jezreel, because I will soon punish the house of Jehu for the massacre at Jezreel, and I will put an end to the kingdom of Israel. In that day I will break the bow, Israel's bow rather, in the valley of Jezreel. In verse 6, Gomer conceived again and gave birth to a daughter. Then the Lord said to Hosea, call her Lo-Ruhamah, for I will no longer show love to the house of Israel, that I should at all forgive them. Verse 7. Yet I will show love to the house of Judah, and I will save them, not by bow, sword, or battle, or by horses, or by horsemen, but by the Lord their God. Verse 8. After she weaned Lo-Ruhamah, Gomer had another son. Then the Lord said, call him Lo-Ammi, for you are not my people, and I am not your God. So, what do we have here, brother? We have a man of God, a man who's striving to follow God's way, follow God, do God's will in his life. Told by God to marry a woman that would be unfaithful. And he did. And he not just did he marry her, brother, he also loved her. Didn't he? God told him that your relationship with her would be a lesson to the people, showing them my relationship with Israel. And just like Gomer poured around on Hosea, Israel did the same to God in turning to idols. Didn't she? But just like Hosea continued to love Gomer, no matter how many lovers she had, no matter how far into sin she sank, God continued to love Israel the same way, didn't he? Now, let's look at those children. 3 children. Jezreel. God told Hosea to give the first one that name, Jezreel. Now, Jezreel was a valley in the heart of Israel. It was a place where a lot of battles were fought. There was a place where the massacres occurred. It was a place died at the walls of Jezreel. Because Jezreel was the name of the city and the valley plain. So it was a place famous for its bloodshed. And so that name, give that name to his son, was a reminder, a point to the people of Israel that God was going to execute judgment. Said God was going to execute judgment on the dynasty of Jehu to avenge the blood at Jezreel. And the name also means scatters. God scatters. So that is saying that God was going to execute judgment on the nation of Israel. The second child was a girl, a daughter that he was commanded by God to name her Lo Ruhamah. A combination of two Hebrew words, Lo meaning no or not, and Ruhamah meaning to have pity. And so God was in effect saying to the people of Israel that I will have no pity on you. I will no longer deal with you from a spirit of compassion, or with a spirit of compassion. And the last child was named Lo Ami, which means not mad. Now people say that, commentators say that can be looked at in two ways. One, that this child definitely did not belong to Hosea. And another was that God was telling the people of Israel that you are no longer my people and I am no longer your God. Now, imagine, brother, talk about a boy named Sue. Imagine growing up as a child with one of those names in the nation of now. And names, as you know, back in those days, in that culture, names, the meaning of names was very important. Imagine what it must have been like to be a child, and every time someone looked at you, they were reminded that God has passed judgment on me. That God will no longer have any pity on me. That God no longer considers me his son. Every time you see one of those kids, I'd imagine that it must have caused a certain amount of resentment, a certain amount of anger maybe. I don't know. But it couldn't have been very easy. But you know, we have a God that knows all that we're going through and does not leave us out there on a limb. Because also in those names, he figuratively changed them to a degree in the sense that he also added a blessing to them. He also said that not only am I going to do these things with you, but I also am going to restore you. So they were a warning of pending doom and destruction, and also a message of hope that the day will come, as we see, and I don't have time to read it, but at the end of verse 1 and the beginning of the next chapter 2, said the day will come when in the place where I said you were no longer my people, people will call you the children of God. The day will come when you will be loved, when I will love you and care for you. The day will come when I will restore you. But that wasn't easy for those children. Now, brother, I'm talking about a father. I'm talking about all that a father went through in dealing and raising his children. His message, his name, his life was a testimony to ancient Israel, and it's also a testimony to us. His life told ancient Israel that no matter how low she sank, God will never stop loving her. His life should tell each and every one of us that no matter how low we sink, God will never stop loving us as well. And as you know in the story, in due time, Gomer left Hosea, left her family, went around from man to man, and eventually she got stuck with one who sold her into slavery, didn't it? And God commanded Hosea to go, pay the price and purchase her and redeem her from slavery and bring her back. That's a message to each and every one of us, brethren. For each and every one of us was also in bondage to sin. In each and every one of us, for each and every one of us, God had paid the price to redeem us in the redemptive word of Christ, in the redemptive blood of Christ, shall I say. Brethren, Hosea is a father who loved his children. Hosea is a father that gave them difficult names, names that were difficult to live with, but he loved his children. Hosea was a father who lived a life that was a message to the nation of Israel and a message to us. Hosea lived the gospel. And I think for that, as a father, he should be always remembered and celebrated.